My name is Ella, and had anyone informed me that a mere visit to SAA one summer afternoon would transform my life, I would have laughed. At 38, I would not have believed them. I had settled into a life of quiet dissatisfaction. Marrying Sebastian, a wealthy man almost 20 years older than me, seemed like the sensible choice. He was charming, successful, and promised me stability in everything in my past relationships lacked. But as the years went on, the spark we once shared faded, overshadowed by his constant business trips and lack of emotional connection. Sebastian left me to roam our vast estate alone, in a marriage that felt more like a business deal. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue bringing you more fascinating true stories like this one. And don't forget to watch this video till the end and like the video, because this story is going to be incredibly interesting. Please hit the like button to show your support. Then there was Owen Sebastian's son from his first marriage at 22. Owen was everything his father wasn't. He was youthful, energetic, and remarkably insightful after finishing college. He had moved back home, claiming it was to save money before beginning his career. But I had a feeling there was more to his return than he let on. Owen had a magnetic energy that made it impossible to ignore his presence. Whether it was his sharp humor, the easy confidence in his smile, or the way his deep blue eyes seemed to pierce through me, he was captivating. And despite my best efforts to keep things proper, his stepmother, his father's wife, the undeniable tension between us grew stronger every day. It was one of those oppressively hot summer's days when the house felt suffocatingly quiet. Sebastian was away again, leaving Owen and I alone spent the morning. While cleaning unnecessary rooms and perusing uninteresting books, the afternoon heat became intolerable, prompting me to recall the SAA. Adjacent to the pool house, a seldom utilized section of the estate, I donned a silk robe over my swimsuit and proceeded to the SAA. The cedar-scented air enveloped me, while the gentle hum of the heating unit alleviated my restless thoughts. I closed my eyes, allowing the warmth to permeate my skin and the solitude to soothe me. Minutes elapsed until I heard the door slide open. Upon opening my eyes, I beheld Owen. Walking with a towel loosely slung about his hips, he remarked nonchalantly, a smirk playing on his lips, "What are you?" I could react incisively here. He inquired again as he leaned against the wall. "I believed you disliked saunas." I acknowledged that I dislike saunas, but today is an exception. He shrugged and seated himself on the bench opposite me. His presence filled the confined space, and his toned physique and damp hair captivated my attention, despite my efforts to avert my gaze. We remained silent, the heat intensifying the tension between us. Eventually, Owen disrupted the silence. "Are you well?" he inquired. His voice was softer, prompting my hesitation. "Why do you inquire? You have appeared unsettled recently," he remarked. "It seems as though something is troubling you." "It's nothing," I murmured, attempting to redirect his concern. "Is it my father?" he inquired, his tone imbued with worry. "You don't have to pretend around me, Ella. I am able to perceive it." Honesty surprised me. He is perpetually absent. I whispered to him, "At times it feels like I'm invisible." Owen leaned in, his expression earnest. "You merit more than that. You merit recognition and appreciation." His words elicited a shudder along my spine. Despite the heat, I averted my gaze, uncertain of how to react. Then I felt his hand on mine. His touch was light yet reassuring. "You're not alone," he said gently. The sauna's warmth intensified, though I recognized it was not solely due to the temperature. Owen's touch elicited a thrill within me, both exhilarating and daunting. I should have withdrawn. I should have articulated something to reinforce our boundaries. But I did not. Instead, I gazed into his eyes, those intense blue eyes that typically sparkled with playfulness, but now appeared deeper and more vulnerable, as if he could perceive the essence of my being, transcending my role as Sebastian's wife to reveal the woman I truly was beneath. "Owen," I whispered, my voice quivering. He leaned closer, still grasping my hand. "You don't have to say anything," he murmured. "I know this is complicated. However, I cannot disregard my emotions when I am in your presence." His remarks constituted a confession. The tension lingered in the air, causing my heart to race as I struggled to formulate a response, yet nothing emerged. I remained seated, ensnared by the magnetic allure of his gaze. Before I could restrain myself, I murmured, "This isn't right," to which he replied, his voice unwavering, "Doesn't it feel right?" I despised the extent of my agreement. My body betrayed my mind. The sauna's heat paled in comparison to the warmth coursing through me as he leaned in, his face mere inches from mine. "I see you, Ella," he whispered, "not as my father's wife, but as the remarkable woman you are, and I cannot feign ignorance." His words were the final impetus, prompting me to close the distance between us, my lips grazing his in a gentle, tentative kiss. Initially, it was a gentle exploration of our mutual transgression, but as his hand caressed my face, the kiss intensified and all restraint dissipated. The walls of the sauna seemed to tighten around us, entangling us in a moment of profound significance. His hands migrated to my waist, drawing me nearer, and I surrendered to the overwhelming intensity. For the first time in years, I felt alive, desired, and acknowledged. The sauna's heat intertwined with the warmth emanating from Owen's touch, creating an intoxicating sensation that was unexpectedly overwhelming. My breath hitched as his fingers grazed the fabric of my robe, tentative yet deliberate, seeking consent I was unable to deny. Rationality eluded me. The burgeoning connection between us overshadowed my thoughts as his lips delicately probed mine, tasting and exploring. It seemed this moment was as surreal for him as it was for me, and I felt his warmth. His breath on my cheek mirrored the rapid rhythm of my heart. His hand moved to bring me closer. "Ella," I muttered, my voice trembling with emotion. He pulled back slightly to meet my gaze, his blue eyes searching mine. In moments of hesitancy, he whispered for me to cease. His voice, husky with longing, compelled my body to lean into him, yearning for the solace and warmth he provided. My hands navigated to his chest, delineating the contours of his physique and imprinting the sensation of him in my memory. I had long denied myself, ensnared in a life of monotony and void. Now, with each touch and every breath, he was igniting something within me. "Do not cease," I murmured. Departing before I could reassess was all he required. His lips reappeared. To seize this moment with urgency and without hesitation, the kiss intensified with each movement, a proclamation of the emotions we had long suppressed. His hands traversed my back, igniting fiery sensations across my skin, even through the delicate fabric of my robe. The heat from the sauna blended with the warmth between us, creating an overwhelming sensation. Sweat accumulated on my forehead, yet I was indifferent to the world beyond the wooden confines of the SAA. It no longer existed. There were no rules, no constraints, only us. His hands located the knot of my robe, fingers pausing momentarily before loosening it. The fabric cascaded from my shoulders, pooling at my feet. Rather than fear, I felt liberated. Owen's gaze was unwavering, appreciation evident in his eyes. "You're incredible," he remarked, his voice husky and infused with awe. I drew him into another kiss, filled with urgency. To immerse myself in the emotions I had long suppressed, his touch grew more audacious, meticulously exploring every part of me with both reverence and desire. Time appeared to suspend as we surrendered to one another, the external world dissipating. For the first time, I permitted myself to feel without trepidation or judgment as Owen's lips traversed from mine to my neck. His kisses rendered me breathless, and the creaking of the SAA door jolted us back to reality. We froze, our breaths intertwining as we listened intently, the silence thick with tension. After a moment, it became evident that no one was present, yet the interruption reminded us of the boundary we were transgressing. "We should," I began, but Owen silenced me with a finger to my lips. "No regrets, Ella," he asserted, his voice both firm and tender. In that instant, I recognized that I harbored no regrets, neither for the kiss, nor the touch, nor the emotions we had unleashed. For once, I permitted myself to feel alive, and I understood that this was irrevocable. However, the weight of our recent actions lingered as we composed ourselves. This moment of passion had unlocked a door that could not be closed, and the repercussions were yet to unfold. The silence that enveloped us as we departed the SAA was profound, conveying significant meaning. The tension in the atmosphere was tangible, stemming not from awkwardness, but from the seriousness of recent events. Owen walked alongside me, his hand intermittently grazing mine, seemingly uncertain whether to grasp it or maintain distance. Meanwhile, life outside the house proceeded as if nothing extraordinary had occurred, yet within, every glance and subtle movement was laden with an unmistakable intensity. I excused myself under the guise of checking my phone and withdrew to the seclusion of my bedroom. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, expelling a breath I had not known I was holding. My mind raced, revisiting every moment in Owen's stare, the intensity of his touch, and the persistent fire within me. How had this occurred with my stepson to such an extent? Younger had stirred long-suppressed guilt within me, infiltrating my thoughts, yet entwining it with an unusual sense of liberation. This situation was not merely complicated, it was perilous. A gentle knock on the door startled me. Ella's low and tentative voice called out to me. I hesitated, my hand poised above the door that Owen stood before, ready to open. His hair was slightly tousled, and his expression was filled with concern as he asked, "Are you okay?" He inquired, entering without awaiting consent. I acquiesced, albeit uncertain of its veracity. I merely required a minute for contemplation. He advanced, his presence enveloping the space. The issue lingered between us, weighty. With significance, I could not evade it, Owen. What transpired? It was genuine. He intervened, asserting that it was not merely a transient moment. Ella, you felt it too. I cannot deny the connection and the passion. It is undeniable. However, that does not render it appropriate. We must exercise caution, I stated, my voice quavering with uncertainty. That your father, my father, does not perceive you, Owen. He abruptly interrupted me. He is so engrossed in his work and life outside this home that you deserve more than to be an afterthought. His words pierced me, and the loneliness I had experienced for years surged to the forefront. I instinctively moved closer to him, reaching out for his touch. "Owen," I whispered, barely audible. His hands gently cupped my face, his touch tender. "I don't care about what's right or wrong," he said, his gaze fixed on mine. "I care about you." Before I could reply, his lips met mine again. This kiss was different, deeper, more desperate, as if we both comprehended the ephemeral nature of our connection. I pulled away breathlessly, my hands resting on his. This can't be our reality, Owen. My voice trembled as I stated, "We must be." He nodded cautiously, yet his eyes revealed a lack of resolve to incinerate them. As I concluded my time with Amia, the subsequent days were characterized by clandestine moments and hushed revelations. We carefully traversed the delicate boundary between secrecy and exposure, ensuring we did not arouse suspicion. Owen devised reasons to remain at the house, offering assistance with chores or fabricating excuses to prolong our time together. Each encounter was charged with tension, our touches lingered, and our gazes were laden with unspoken sentiments. The intensity of our connection intensified, accompanied by an escalating risk. One evening, while I was preparing dinner, Owen entered the kitchen, positioning himself behind me. His presence was overpowering as his hand settled on my waist, and he leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear. "Can I help with anything?" he inquired. With his voice laced with taunting, I turned to confront him. My pulse raced as I murmured to Owen, "We cannot continue this." Despite my wavering resolve, he chuckled, his confidence disconcerting. "Then tell me to leave, Ella. Tell me you do not share my feelings, and I will depart." One night, I hesitated to express my thoughts, and inevitably, a text message from Owen's father arrived on my phone indicating he was working late. "Do not wait up again tonight." I sat on the couch, contemplating the message, burdened by my decisions. Owen entered the room, noticing the distress on my face. "He is not coming." "Where is he?" Owen inquired while seated beside me, and I shook my head, rendered speechless. He extended his hand, providing unspoken support. "You need not face this alone, Ella," he stated, the vulnerability in his voice dismantling my final defenses. I turned to him, my emotions overflowing. "What actions are we undertaking, Owen? How can this function?" He did not respond verbally. Rather, he embraced me, allowing my tears to flow. One tranquil evening, which felt deceptively secure, Owen and I occupied the living room, imbued with the intimacy we had cultivated. I ignited several candles, their gentle illumination imparting warmth to the space. Owen sat beside me, his hand resting lightly on my knee, a subtle gesture that conveyed much. We conversed about inconsequential matters, significant yet insignificant matters, such as his university projects, the weather, and weekend plans were discussed. Nonetheless, his gaze, remaining somewhat longer than usual, imbued even the most inconsequential dialogue with significance. Suddenly, the front door opened unexpectedly. Initially, I failed to perceive the sound, but upon witnessing Sebastian enter the room, his coat draped over his arm, time appeared to halt. He paused in the doorway, his eyes narrowing as they surveyed the scene. He first focused on Owen, who was sitting too close to me. Then his gaze shifted to me, darkening as he took in the candles, the wine glasses, and the intimate atmosphere. "What is transpiring here?" Sebastian's voice was incisive, cutting through the tension. Owen tensed beside me, withdrawing his hand from my knee. I hastily rose to my feet, my heart racing. "Sebastian, I didn't anticipate your early return," I stammered, my voice quivering. "That much is evident," Sebastian retorted, his tone imbued with suspicion as his eyes flitted between us, seeking explanations. "It is not what it appears," Owen asserted, also rising to his feet. Despite his empty comments, Sebastian's demeanor soured, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper as he explained the situation. "Owen, it appears that an event is unfolding from my vantage point. Between my wife and my kid, the words lingered, laden with reproach. "Sebastian, please," I began, but he interrupted me. Did he not snap? "Do not deceive. I believe that I am not foolish, Owen." He advanced, his mouth clenched. You are correct." In surprise, I turned to Owen, my eyes wide, and said, "Owen, no." However, it was too late. Sebastian's face flushed with rage as he approached Owen, but I swiftly interposed myself, raising my hands and imploring, "Cease, both of you, just cease," I exclaimed. "This is entirely my fault." Owen Sebastian looked at me, his eyes reflecting a blend of betrayal and amazement. "You're absolutely to blame," he spat. "I trusted you, Ella. I brought. Your integration into this household rendered you a member of this family, and this is your recompense." My eyes brimmed with tears, although I resisted their descent. "You have been absent, Sebastian," I stated, my voice faltering. "You have been so engrossed in work and external matters that I have felt invisible for years. I committed a grave error, but do not feign innocence in this, Sebastian." He appeared astonished, opening his mouth only to close it again, rendered speechless. Owen grasped my hand, his touch anchoring me, and admonished, "Do not address her in that manner." Owen asserted emphatically, "You have disregarded her. He treated her as if she were mere furniture. She deserves better." Sebastian confronted Owen, his fury intensifying as he gazed upward and questioned, "You believe you are superior? You believe you can survive?" With accusations exchanged, I positioned myself between them, my heart hurting as the two individuals I cherished attacked one another. Ultimately, I could no longer endure the situation, so I intervened. I yelled, my voice faltering, "This is over." Both men fell silent, gazing intently. "Gaze upon me." "I am leaving," I said, my voice barely audible above a whisper. A whisper. "This family is fractured, and it is my responsibility. I cannot remain here and exacerbate the situation." Owen appeared despondent, attempting to grasp my hand once more. "Ella, please," he implored. "I must," I asserted, withdrawing from him. "This is not appropriate, Owen. It never was, Sebastian." He remained silent, his expression a facade of anger and anguish. I proceeded to the bedroom, my heart laden as I packed. Tears cascaded down my cheeks, yet I recognized it was my sole option. When I departed that night, I refrained from glancing back. I relocated to a modest apartment across town, embarking on a life that felt simultaneously emancipating and solitary. Owen attempted to contact me through messages and voicemails, but I was unable to respond. Subsequently, Sebastian filed for divorce. Following the declaration of irreconcilable differences, the estrangement between Owen and his father appeared irrevocable. I frequently contemplated Owen. The fervor we experienced and the repercussions of our decisions constituted a bittersweet reminiscence that would perpetually linger in my mind. Certain choices inflict wounds that never completely mend, yet they ultimately reveal our true selves. Ultimately, I had to release Owen, not due to a lack of affection, but because our love had nearly obliterated us both.